Hey guys, it's Marco again. In today's video I'll give you some rogue leveling tips, focusing also on the upcoming phase 2 of Season of Discovery. We will start with the professions. Ideally you want to have skinning for leveling, it comes in super handy. It's a source of extra gold and it gives you something to do while you're in downtime before the next mob. You will regenerate some HP and energy while profiting. Definitely a must take. Personally, I will drop skinning at max level and take up engineering, and I already prepared all the mats for the quick level up. For the second profession, I advise that you take leatherworking, but don't level it immediately, since it takes some time to do those professions and you want to be ahead of other players for less contested leveling. Last profession, which is a must take, is first aid. We don't have a way to heal, so first aid is an ideal way to quickly heal in between the pulls, so you maximize the amount of time you spend grinding the mobs. Cooking is also a nice profession to have, but I will wait until the max level to level it. When it comes to leveling, there are two viable talent builds: combat and hemo build. I prefer combat build because I'm basic and I prefer faster mob kill times than being a PvP role-playing monster. Honestly, if you're leveling a bit slower or rogue is your alt, filled with traffic and hemo build will do better there, since you'll have a lot more utility to protect yourself in PvP. Let's start with the combat rogue, since most of the player base will go for this approach. First we need to talk about the current runes. You will start with Shadow Strike as a rune. It's a great rune and one of the best ways in-game to tag mobs. So if you're ever in need to be fast on the tag, get this rune. You will use this rune even when you get Saber Slash if you're fast at killing mobs. Mobs at higher levels have a big health scaling, so eventually Saber Slash will get better, around level 20. Once we get Cheap Shot, I think that Saber Slash will be a lot better. For leg runes, the best one is Between the Eyes, and you have an optional Blade Dance rune. For chest, I like using Quick Draw rune, it's a nice ranged damage output with slow, especially useful in PvP. However, Deadly Brew will end up giving you more raw DPS, and you won't need to worry about your poisons, which will clear out a bit of your backspace. So if you don't have any faction competition while leveling, I would go with Saber Slash, Between the Eyes and Deadly Brew. With the runes done, let's go over the talents. You should definitely start with 2 points into Improved Sinister Strike, and then you can either continue with the combat tree or invest 2 points into Remorseless Attacks for extra 40% critical. Just remember, you need to make a killing blow on the target in order to proc this talent. I'm not a massive fan of the talent, but majority of the players will go for it. I prefer to just focus on the combat tree. Usually we would take Improved Gouge as a next talent, but since we have a Bleed and Deadly Poison, which break Gouge, I advise that you just take the 3% extra dodge. Then I prefer going with Deflection into Riposte. These talents will make you a lot more tankier and will reduce the amount of damage that you take, and health is our most important resource when doing solo content. After that, I usually take 5 points into Precision, then followed with 2 points into Endurance, since Sprint and Evasion cooldown reduction will go a long way, and 2 points into Dual Wield Specialization. Also, I definitely advise that you respec at level 30 if you went for Remorseless Attacks and instantly take Blade Flurry. I tend to use Blade Flurry off cooldown and just pull 2 or 3 mobs and cleave them down. Next talents will depend on weapons which you use. There's a lot of swords, but there are also some easy to get maces. So you can either decide to finish off Dual Wield Specialization or go with Specific Weapon Specialization depending on your weapons. Then I will go with Aggression and lastly Weapon Expertise and Adrenaline Rush. When it comes to Hemo build, it requires a bit more skill than Combat Rogue, since you will have the weapon changing macros to have Dagger for your ambush and a slow speed main hand for out of stealth. You will go with Saber Slash rune, maybe even Mutilate if you get your hands on 2 good daggers, and with Mutilate you will require less weapon swapping. On legs, Between the Eyes is your best rune, and for chest I would actually go for the Quick Draw instead of Deadly Brew. Your talents here are all kind of optional, you can take whatever you prefer. However, I advise that you take a bit of utility talents at start, so your stealth is a bit better. So start with 2 points into Master of Deception, or 3 if you want, and then go for Opportunity. Then take 3 points in Camouflage, 2 points in Elusiveness, then immediately take Ghostly Strike and 3 points in Improved Ambush. Then go back for 1 point into Opportunity, followed by 3 points into Serrated Blades and then 1 point Opportunity, and then you can put 1 point in any utility that you want. At level 30, you finally get your hand on Hemo, and at level 31, Preparation. At this point, you can go for more utility talents in sub tree, or you can also go in assassination tree for damage. Taking 2 points in remorseless attacks will guarantee that your ambush will crit after you kill a mob. Then I would take 5 points in malice and lastly 2 points in murder. When it comes to choosing a weapon, you usually want to go with the slower weapon speed. That's because your abilities like Backstab, Sinister Strike, Saber Slash, Mutilate and more do damage based on the weapon damage, and you get weapon damage by multiplying DPS with the attack speed. So more DPS on the weapon doesn't mean more weapon damage, which is the most important stat for these types of things. Good main hand dagger will have 1.8 attack speed, and good non-dagger main hand will have 2.6 attack speed. When it comes to tackling elites, there are a few techs if you can't handle them face to face. You can swap your runes a bit to get just a flesh wound and blade dance if the elite is doing too much damage, or you can do the good old crippling poison kiting. Crippling poison kiting usually relied a lot on gouge, but it's still doable with between the eyes. All you have to do is to kite the elite while it's slowed and bleeding, and you will just re-engage when you get your stun cooldown back and energy back. You will slowly chip away the dangerous monster while it can't retaliate. If you plan to level mostly through dungeons, I prefer going with Backstab build, because things just die way too quickly for you to ramp up your damage with Saber Slash and poisons. And if you're going to focus on the dungeon farming while leveling, I suggest running these talents. For abilities, I generally don't use Slice and Dice if I have good gear, because I will usually just kill the monster in 3 Sinister Strikes and be done with it. However, if the mob is at super low HP and I haven't used my combo points, I will use Slice and Dice so I have it up for the next mob. If my gear is a bit lower or mobs have too much health, I will definitely use my Slice and Dice at start at either 1 combo point or 2. It all really depends on the mobs and how fast I will kill them. Overall, whenever the combat is longer than a few seconds, melee haste will buff your damage a lot. Another tip is that if you're engaging a mob in stealth and not using Shadow Strike, definitely use Pickpocket so you get some extra gold and lockboxes. Those lockboxes are cool since they contain potions, powders needed for blind and vanish. At level 26 we're finally getting our hands on Cheap Shot. It's a 4-second stun which generates 2 combo points, which are ideal for instant Slice and Dice. You'll save quite a bit of your most important leveling resource, and that's health. But there are 2 instances when I won't use Cheap Shot, and that's when you have a high armor mob, such as a plate or shield wearing humanoid or turtles. Then you want to use Garrote, since bleed will do full damage compared to your heavily reduced auto attacks. The second instance is when you're dealing with a squishy caster type of a mob, or you know that you will kill the mob super quickly. Then I will just use Ambush for the huge damage output. And you can easily identify the caster mobs, they'll have mana and they usually wear cloth. But remember, you can't use Ambush if you don't have a dagger equipped. So your rotation should look like this. Step 1, come close to the mob. Step 2, distract it if needed and make sure that you have your dagger equipped and that you're at 100 energy and close to the next energy tick. Step 3 is to pickpocket the poor bastard if it's a humanoid and cast Ambush followed with a weapon swap Saber Slash, Slice and Dice, Saber Slash. After applying 3 stacks of Saber Slash, you can use your Sinister Strike for a bit extra damage and the mob should be dead any second. The rotation for killing mobs is as easy as pressing the like button and subscribing for more content. If you guys want to support the channel further than that, please check out my Patreon page for additional perks. Thank you for watching and bye bye.